Niko, we're going to take a look at your quickest lap from last week's session, which was 1:38.5. I'll break it down same as I did before with comments on each corner. I will overlay some of the data as well so you can see what I'm talking about. There are some general comments for the areas that you need to focus on in order to be able to get your lap times consistently below 1:38. None of these should be a surprise to you. One is track positioning. You need to use more of the track. So you need to use all of the track on entry, so be as far over to the outside as you can on entry. Get down to the apex and on the apex curb a lot of the time, and then use all of the track on exit. And you will find that will do a couple of things. One, enable you to carry more speed through the corner, but specifically it'll enable you to be able to get to throttle earlier. Let's have a look at this. So we're coming into turn 4 at the end of the previous lap, and I wanted to show you this because it affects the next lap as well. So we're going to be stepping forwards, coming into the corner. You're turning in quite early here, and this is that first point that we're not all the way over to the outside. You do tend to creep in earlier on this corner because it's such a slow corner, but where possible we want to open up the corner more than this. And as we turn in, this time was actually pretty good, but that's as close as you get to the apex. We want to be on this. These curbs are actually very friendly. You don't finish turning into the corner and you start to go to throttle here, change your mind, and then go back to full throttle. Pretty much when you're out, all the way out here at the exit, we want to be at full throttle around the apex. Now what this does is it reduces your exit speed coming out of the corner by about 4 miles an hour. And that 4 miles an hour is going to carry all the way down into turn 6. So let's just roll forwards. Let's stop it here, just as we're coming into the braking area for turn 6. So I'm just going to step this forward. That was a good lap. It was a 38. What are we? 38.9. But I want you to look at the positioning of the car on the track as we come into this corner. And your speed here, we're going to start breathing off the throttle pretty soon. Right, just there, we're starting to come off the throttle. Your speed is 116. This speed needs to be at 120, and if you can nail turn 4, you will get that extra speed. And because you've got that long straight and you would be going faster, it's about 3/4 of a second that you will gain coming down there. So just nailing turn 4 will get you into the 37s on a consistent basis. So bear that in mind. Turn 4 is really, really important. So let's slow down the car a little more coming into it so we can position the car to get onto the gas sooner on the exit. Okay? So we're talking about turn 4 while we're actually in turn 6. Now, you start to come off the throttle at the 2 cone. That is a little early. So I would like to see you stay on throttle at least until halfway in between the 2 cone and the white cone. There is no one blue cone here. There's just the white turn-in cone. So you're coming off the throttle a little early, and your initial brake application is gradual. You know, what we should see here when we're stepping forward is going from no brake, and then on the next frame it should be full brake. The strength of your braking is about right when I look at it. You are at, what are you at? About 490. No, maximum brake pressure here is probably a little over 500. So your brake pressure is good, and where you have your maximum brake pressure, which is here, is exactly where you want it to be, halfway between the two blue cones and the white cone. So if you can be faster to the brake, you can brake later, still brake the same amount, and carry more speed up to the braking point. On this data plot here, we can see that you're coming off the gas early and transitioning smoothly onto the brake early. So if we can bring the move off the gas later and go more quickly onto the brakes, we'll be fine. Also, then you will come off the brake later at the right point. Another interesting item to note here is the trace for going back onto throttle and how much you modulate the accelerator pedal when you go back to gas. The other thing is here, look how far off the outside you are. So you're going to be turning in from here, and it's going to make this turn in quite tight. If you could turn in from out here, it'll open up this corner a little bit. So let's just make a point of being further over to the right here, and you start to turn in a little early, if I remember correctly. So if I look at your hands on the steering wheel, it's a little difficult to see. You're starting to turn in here, and I can see the car moving away from the outside, and the turn-in cone is actually here. You probably want to turn in just after that white cone. And you see at this point, at that white cone, you're already probably close to a car width off the outside, so you've tightened up the corner. And so let's bring this down. So you come in very tight to the corner. Let's see where you apex. So you're apexing round about here, which is a little early. So I want you to apex a little later. So if we think 1, 2, 3, this is where I want you to hit. And you can see the tire marks are starting here, but ideally you want to be down on this corner and actually brushing on this curb here. Let's bring it forward. This is good. Your minimum speed is back here. And see now, if we look at the throttle, you go to throttle, and a maintenance throttle through here is good. So once you've gone to this maintenance throttle, and here you've had to do it very early because you've overslowed the car a little bit, your minimum speed is here. We want the minimum speed to be closer to the apex cone. But so you've gone back to throttle, you've come off the throttle a little bit, you've gone back to throttle. So there's a lot of modulation on the throttle here. 78, 79. And see now you're going back to close to full throttle, and then you come off, and then you go back again. Let's just have this maintenance throttle, let's say at 50% through the first part of the corner, and then once you get to here, full throttle and keep it there. Your apex speed is pretty good, is 81. Now you've brought that up significantly. We can still bring that up more. 83, 84. This is really good where you are at the moment, but you're at the speed because you overslowed earlier and went back to gas sooner. If you can not slow the car as much and just roll that speed in, you'll be able to get back to throttle, you'll be able to get it down to the apex. As it is, your positioning here is pretty good. It looks like you're close to the paint, but not quite. Let's try and get this car over another couple of feet, and then you will be moving away from the apex at this point. You just don't want to be this far away from the apex at this point. Let's keep carrying this through. Oh, you breathed off the throttle here and went back to it. Just stay on it. And what you see on the exit is you're getting closer to this curb, but that's as close as you get. You are pretty much on this paint line. I want you rubbing your tire out here and staying out there, because what we see now is you come away from this curb, which you weren't on very early, and that puts you in very tight on turn 7. So let's see where this brings you to. You are wider, but I want you wider than this. I want you probably another half a car width over this way to the right. But this is excellent in terms of you stay on the throttle, your full throttle here, and I think you go straight to brake. Now, what we actually see here is that you're on the brake too hard and too long for the amount of brake force that you're putting in. We want to kind of carry speed through this corner. I want you coming in diagonally more, so you're going to be coming down to the curbing, which just starts here, and then going out to mid-track. Let's have a look and see here. So you're actually wide in the early part of the corner. You're in tight at the start, and then you're starting to move away from this curb here. What I'd rather see you is coming in towards this curb here and then coming out more around here. Let's have a look. So now you're bringing it in tight here. You're bringing it in very, very tight. So this is going to delay you getting back to the throttle. Now, although this isn't a perfect illustration, you can see that your blue line is in very tight at the start of the corner and then stays tight all the way around the inside, which is limiting the amount of speed you can carry. The red line you see is coming from wider at the start, and although it doesn't go all the way down to the curb that I was explaining, it does go wider mid-corner. So I want you to be on a curb around here so you can be pointing down towards turn 8 and getting back to gas sooner. So you're having to put in a lot of steering angle here, and you're having to maintain that steering angle. If we can go wider, you'll have less steering angle and you'll be able to get back to throttle earlier. So you're nearly on this curb all the way around. So you're going the shortest route, which will save you time, but it makes it difficult to get back to gas. So what you'll see is you'll pick up time because of the distance you're going, but then because you're delaying going back to throttle here, you'll lose time in this part of the corner. And like I said, this is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So you need to keep experimenting in this corner. The one thing that this tight line does, if you maintain that steering angle, it gets you all the way over to the left, which is good because it opens up turn 8. So again here, you did a good job of staying on that full throttle until you go to brake. You go to brake almost immediately. I would say you're braking at the right point here, but it's a little too soft. I would like to see harder braking. A good hard brake here, and you need to get down to the apex. Let's just take this through. You're getting the car turned in well, but you are significantly off the apex. It's critical to run your tires on this apex here so the car will be turned more and you'll be able to get back to power sooner. So here, it's a little difficult to tell because you're not down on the apex, but it looks like your closest point is here. So that's an early apex. If you're apexing here, your car's pointing that way. If we can apex and get closer down to the corner here, you'll be pointing more down this way and you will be able to get back to gas. See here, you're moving away from the apex. We want to be dragging the car around the corner. And let's have a look at the throttle trace. Okay, so you're going back to throttle here. And then you back off. And then you go back to throttle, and then you hit full throttle here on the exit curb, and you're pretty consistent from corner to corner that you're getting to throttle late, and that is what is costing you lap time. So let's give up a little bit of urgency in mid-corner, get the car down to the apex, and get to the gas as soon as we can around the apex. And it's going to feel slower, but it's going to be so much quicker. Right, so let's come out of here. Now at this point, good, you're not following the outside of the track. What you want to do here is look all the way down here. That's the white cone for turn in, and I think the blue cone is just about here. Focus on that and aim at that. So let's bring this down. Yeah, there it is. So this is what we're focusing on. We want to be on the outside of the track at this point. And if you do a straight line, then it will bring you to that point. Let's see, let's bring it down, full throttle, full throttle. You do a very good job of staying on throttle. Now look at where you are here. You are mid-track. Let's get it right next to the cone. Now, this is showing that you are full throttle until the one cone. But if I look at the data, that's not what the data is saying. The data is saying that you came off throttle well before. So I think there's some synchronization issues between the data and what we're seeing on screen. So we'll go with what's on screen. So here it says you're staying on throttle all the way to the one cone. Let's just bring this back. Right, so we're just at the one cone, you're coming off the throttle, but you are a long way over here. So you've tightened up this corner, and that's going to cause you issues. You are either going to have to overslow it or stay off the gas longer. So let's open up this corner. Braking, again, is too gradual onto the brake. Let's get onto the brake quickly and harder, so you can get off the brake sooner. Now, in reality, you can bring the braking down. Now, you probably want to see your maximum braking just about here, which is pretty much where you are. You've just taken a while to get to it. Let's turn that head. Let's turn the head to look through the corner. The speed is good coming into the corner. Expect to see somewhere around about 65 for this corner. Maybe a tad less, 64, maybe 63. But you can see you're already starting to touch the throttle, and right there, you've gone to throttle. Right, so you're building up throttle, you've anticipated the apex, you've done a very good job of getting down to the curb, but you're early. You've apexed here. We want to apex here, and you can see if you apex here, your car's going to be pointing in that direction. Apexing here, it's pointing in that direction. So just be careful of that. And you've gone back to throttle early, and we'll see you come off the throttle because you realize you're going across the track. You come off the throttle, go back to throttle, and you're back at throttle on the exit curb. We can see here that you go onto the throttle early, then come off, and then go back on again. And at the top, we can see what the speed differential coming out of the corner is, even though at the apex, your speed was spot on. This is what we've got to change. We want you to be at full throttle pretty much on or around the apex. In some corners, you're actually back to throttle before the apex. So that's the big thing here. Now, because you've delayed coming onto throttle, your speed is about 4 miles an hour down on where it could be. And because these cars don't have a lot of torque, the engine can't make up for that. So you will stay 4 miles an hour down all the way down to turn 1 because you're flat the whole time. There's nothing more you can do. Let's drive on down to turn 1 and see what happens. Very nice. So let's get here, and if we get this turned in properly here, we can see we're going in a straight line on the edge of the track, and this is where we want to stay. We want to stay all the way over here. Let's see what your maximum speed is. Here you should be anywhere between 116, 118 miles an hour if you've really nailed turn 11 right. So 112. Let's get another mile an hour out of this. 113. Right, so briefly you're at 113, and then you start to come off the throttle, and you're coming off the throttle a good distance before the start-finish line. So let's stay on it. It'll give you a couple of miles an hour more. And you are going to brake quite gradually. Your braking here is interesting. You kind of go to brake, and then you pause at this braking level before going to full brake, pretty much exactly where you want to be going to full brake. And your maximum brake pressure here was around about 400 psi, which if you're not staying on throttle is probably a little too much. You're definitely staying on the brake too long. So for that amount of braking, let's get to the brakes faster, not harder. Let's get to the brakes faster and get off them sooner. We can see this here on the data trace that first of all you are braking early, and we can see that pause in the braking as you go onto the brakes, and also the gradual nature of your braking. Plus we can see that you're going back harder to brakes at the end of the braking phase, and then we can see the accelerator trace where you're going to gas, coming off, and then going back on again. So this is a really good illustration of what you're doing as you're going into this corner. Now, what's happening here, you see you're drifting into mid-track. We want to stay over here until just before this white cone and turn in just before this white cone. Now, if I take you alongside this cone, you're a car width in. Look how tight this corner is now. So this is the main reason why you are having difficulty maintaining speed through here, and why you're having to stay on the brakes a little bit longer is because it's a much tighter corner for you than it is for everybody else. So let's stay out to the side, don't creep into the middle. And if I remember correctly here, what I see is you start to go back to throttle around about the end of the Armco here. Let's see. So you're off brake, which is good, but look how tight. There you are. You're back at throttle already here. So that's an indication that you've overslowed the car. You're at 88 miles an hour. This car needs to gradually come down to about 92, 93 by the time you're just before the apex. So let's be careful of that. If you find yourself going back to throttle here, it's because you've been on the brakes too long and you're in too tight. Because you are fighting the car at this point because you're in very, very tight very early. You need to be out here more so that we can get down to the curbing later. Now you do a good job of getting down to the curb here. Your speed is 87. This is excellent, so much better. We can still use this bit of the curbing. If you get the car up on the curbing, it'll lift the left side of the car a little bit more, which transfers load over to the right, which will give you more cornering grip. So just that tilting the car up a bit will help the car turn. And this is why a raised curb like this, why I say it'll drag the car around the corner, because it gives you more cornering grip if you can get the weight on the outside wheel. It's like leaning out of a corner in a go-kart. So that's how you get grip. So we're at 86 here. Right, your minimum speed is 86 and you go back to full throttle. This is about right. That's about where you want to go back to full throttle, and you need to stay at full throttle. And you do. Excellent job. But now coming out, because we're going slower than the car can through here, we don't use all of the track on exit. That's as close as you get to the exit curbing. Look at all this lovely room out here. And standing up in the tower, this was pretty consistent. You weren't using all of the exit curbing. That tells me you weren't going fast enough coming through that corner. Or you can carry more speed going through the corner. It's a much nicer way of saying it. Now, you've probably got an extra 6 feet of track that you can use. And a useful indicator here, if you've got the speed showing anywhere on your dash, is just glance at it right here. You want to be at around 100 miles an hour at the end of that curbing. So just as you see the end of the curbing, have a look at your speedo. That should be at 100 miles an hour. You can see you're 7 miles an hour down, and that was 7 miles an hour down through the whole corner. And I think if you brake a little later, use all of the track, carry more speed through the corner, you'll pick up about half a second from braking into turn 1 into braking into turn 2. Turn 2 generally looks good. Where you're braking looked fine. How much you're braking looks fine. And you know, your speed is pretty good in here. Turn in, you can be a little further over. It's very difficult to get all the way over here to the outside, so I'm not that concerned about that. Let's see how you do getting down to the apex. Oh, perfect. Really, really good. You actually turn away from the corner. You're in a good position here. I think you're concerned about hitting the curb. Don't be. This curbing's fine. You see there, you're turning in, and then you turn away from the corner slightly. Let's keep it turned in and full throttle right here. And let's see how much curbing. So you're waiting until you're pretty much out of the corner until you go to throttle. So that's cost you on speed coming out of here. And that's pretty good on the exit. You're on this paint line. We can use all of this curbing. It's very friendly curbing, and it'll help you turn in on the next corner. So turn 3, let's have a look at this. I would like to see you get to the brakes quicker. So this one is literally just a stab on the brakes. You here were just a little hesitant and not as strong. So just harder punch to the brakes. Let's see here. See, it's taking a few frames to get up to maximum and then off. And let's just get off these brakes. Don't worry about trailing down into this corner. See, you're staying on brakes quite a long time here. Let's just get off that brake, and I think you actually, there you go back to brakes very briefly because you're worried that you're going too fast into this corner. You can actually carry quite a lot of speed into this corner. It's a wider radius than the previous corner, and you've already slowed the car in the previous corner. So just let this car run through here. Now it's critical to get down to this apex and get the car turned in all the way around the corner. See the tire marks? Look at all these tire marks. You want to add to those. So you've apexed here, and now you're going away from the corner. See, it's the same thing as turn 11. You're going away from the corner this way. We want to be apexing here and going that way. As a consequence, you go to throttle, you pause, and then you go to full throttle. Let's just look at that again. Let's just look at the throttle trace here. So you're gradually adding throttle. Pausing, then adding more throttle. So that was actually one of your better throttle applications, but let's have less of a pause. There might be some maintenance in there, but that one was quite a noticeable step. And here's another good check. You can use more of that curbing on the exit. You can see the tire marks there. Don't worry about all these tire marks. And you can see here, this is where people run wide. This is packed really, really solid, so you can actually afford to go wide. Just keep the wheel straight if you do, and you'll be fine. I always check my speed here, and I want to be kind of around 81, 82. 77 is good. It's good exit speed. You can carry more speed through there though. So you're 78. Let's carry on all the way down to the bus stop. Right, so we're coming into the bus stop, and your speed up to here is pretty good. You're probably a couple of miles an hour down. Where you hurt yourself, yeah, again, 120, 121 probably. I know I definitely see it hit 120 coming down here, but from what I remember, you come off the throttle here. You want to stay on throttle until you see this dark patch. And this dark patch, there's a very small bump there which has created this. It's actually a dip. And it's right opposite the two. So you know if you wait until there, you don't have to be looking over to the left. Just focus on that dark patch and stay pinned until there. And see, you've started to go to brakes just about here. So you're fractionally before the 2 board. Again, it's a little gradual onto the brakes. Your maximum braking is just about here. So that's after the 2 board, and that's what you want. So if you think that you want to hit that maximum braking pressure when the tail of your car is level with the 2 board, you'll be about right. And if you can get to the brakes more quickly, then you'll be able to brake later, and you'll be able to do away with this gradual application of the brake. What I saw here, if we go back, there was quite a dwell. You see here, as you start to come off the throttle, I think there's some inertia in the throttle sensor here. You start to come off the throttle, and then you go to brake there. That is about 33 feet, 2 car lengths, let's say. So just be careful about that. And so what I saw, I measured this in the data, I saw 33 feet between coming off the gas and starting to go to brake. But in total, before you got to maximum brake pressure just there, it was 115 feet. So if we can bring that down, even if it's just half of that, let's say bring it down to 50 feet, that's going to be a huge improvement. So let's try and get to maximum brake pressure more quickly. And your braking pressure was great. You were actually at 630, which is a little high. I would expect to see around about 600. So what I am seeing here is you're already starting to drift into this corner, so let's just keep it wider, just a fraction longer. It feels like the turn in is a little early here, but that's marginal. But what I am seeing is, let's come back to here. Okay, here's your braking. You're starting to come off. We do trail a little bit into this one, so you're coming off the brake, and then you are convinced that you're going too fast, so you're back on the brakes. That is going to make the car feel extremely squirrely. So let's try and avoid having that extra late brake pressure. It's going to make the rear of the car feel very, very loose. And let's be careful about this blip. You're starting to hit the throttle before you're in the bus stop. And then you blip the throttle right here, right on entry. That's too early. Your wheel is still turned too much. If you are going to do this throttle blip, and once you start to carry more speed into the corner, you probably won't need this. The throttle blip needs to be here once you're flat, and your wheel should be straight. Okay, so back on the throttle here, then you come off the throttle here, and that will help the car turn. You've come off the throttle here, but you're still turning the other way. So the whole point of this throttle is to, as you come off it heading into this part, is to get the nose turned in more quickly so you can then return to throttle again. Coming through here, you go to throttle, so you need to maintain that throttle. And if I remember correctly, yep, you come off the throttle because you're a little wide, and this is all related to that blip or lack of the blip. You've gone too deep into this corner. We need to be mid-track, no more than mid-track at all. So you're nearly over to the right side. That is going to mean that you're going to have to turn back in more on the exit, and it's going to cost you exit speed. So let's try and go no more than mid-track here, and that's why you had to back off the throttle. You go back to full throttle, and you see here we're not quite aligned. If we were half a car width over, we'd be perfectly aligned, and we'd better carry more speed out of here. As it is, you get perfectly on this curb. That is so much better than what you were doing before, and you can go full throttle, but you're down, your speed is down a little bit on the exit because of that delay on the throttle. You're probably losing from braking through to braking for turn 4, the final corner. It's probably another half a second that we can pick up going through the bus stop. So let's have a look here. This is good. You're nice and wide. You're on the edge of the track. Stay on the edge of the track. Let's bring this all the way down. Now, you need to focus on this orange paint on the end of the arm code. That is your braking marker. Let's see where you are. Looking good so far. Okay, you're coming off the throttle just a little early. You're coming off the throttle at the 2 board, just there. And you're gone to brakes. You're going to brakes here before the orange. So I want you to be just about here when you go to brakes. You're very gradual in this corner. This is one of your maximum braking areas. You really need to punch the brakes and get to full brake pressure immediately. So I'd like to do one click on the mouse and it would be at full braking pressure. And you can trail more into this corner. It's a very slow corner, so you can trail the brakes to help get the car turned rather than coming off immediately. So this is the one corner where you can trail. Let's have a look. So you're coming in too early. You're already moving away. Let's stay out. Let's try and follow these lines here for your tires. You're a little too far, not too far off at this point, but you did creep in a bit. So let's just keep it out a little more. So this corner is very slow and you need to turn in way more than you think. So crank the wheel all the way over in mid-corner. You're only going to be doing like 45 miles an hour. Let's see where you apex. Right, so you've hit the curbing here. Apex is all the way around here. Now if you can keep the wheel cranked in, that will be good. But you see here, you're starting to go to throttle. And so we've got some throttle application early in the corner, a bit more. See, now you're going to throttle. That's taking grip away from the front, and the car is going across the track. Instead of, if you waited until you were here, you better go to full throttle immediately. So just let the car come around. Your speed is good. So you go to throttle and then you back off again, right? And that's purely because you were too early on the throttle. The car is pushing wide and you're thinking, well, I'm not going to get through this corner. And it's feeling very understeery at this point. Look how much steering angle you've got on. You're fighting this car at this point. So let's just be patient. Wait to get back to gas until you're more committed on the turn in. And you see you don't get to full throttle, boom, until you're there at 56 miles an hour. If we look at the data against the reference lap, where you are doing 56, the reference lap is doing 59. And we see a 3 or 4 mile an hour difference all the way down through turn 5 to the start finish line. And so that's where that 3/4 of a second is coming from. So I think that these are relatively easy fixes. If we can sort those out, your times are going to tumble. And the important thing is to do this stuff consistently. You will start off by being slower because you will be waiting too long and you'll be overslowing the car. But we need to develop muscle memory for you and get that delay in getting back to the throttle until the car is pointing in the right direction. But this is good. I mean, there is significant improvement from the first data that I saw you do. So let's take this up to the start finish line and just confirm that this lap is indeed a 1:38.57. Very good. This is your new normal, and we're going to be working from this. So we're going to be using this as your baseline, and you're going to improve from there. And we saw there were I think 3 very significant corners for you. It was obviously turn 4 that we've been talking about, turn 6, and turn 1. So those are the 3 corners that we really need to concentrate on. The other ones, it's fine-tuning of getting on that throttle later. Hope that helps, and look forward to seeing you back out on track.